Hello and welcome to the UX Level Up podcast. Today I have got the Angie King on the podcast. She is a heavy hitter in the content strategy space. She is a content strategy manager at Mayo Clinic, and before that she was the VP of User Experience Design at US Bank. She started her career at Brain Traffic, which if you know, you know. That's like the birthplace of content strategy. And she's a certified object-oriented UX strategist too. So we have an amazing conversation that I am just excited to share with you. And you're going to get to see a peek inside Mayo Clinic and content strategy and OUX and how that is leveling up their practice there. You're going to get to understand a little bit about what it's like for a content strategist to go through the OUX certification. And yeah, so before we jump in, I just want to let you know that we have got a date. We've got a date for cohort 12. So that is going to kick off on August 31st. So if you want to get on the wait list, which is basically a priority list, you get to hear about it before we actually launch to everybody else. So you will ensure yourself to get a spot because we do sell out of the certification. We only do it one time a year. It's fall, it's back to school time. And that is going to be August 31st is when we start. Looking at the calendar here, if you're on the wait list, it'll be like the beginning of August that you hear about it and you'll be able to enroll. So go ahead, get that on your calendar, start clearing the decks for fall, and I hope to see you there in the certification. Okay, let's go talk to Angie. If you're looking to level up your UX, content, or product design practice to confidently and joyfully tackle complexity, ask the million-dollar questions, and design digital systems that actually work, you are so in the right place. Welcome to the UX Level Up podcast. I'm Sophia Prater, and for over a decade, I've been teaching professionals how to make the most valuable and often invisible parts of UX gloriously visible. We will untangle the structure beneath the surface before jumping into screens, saving time, money, and headaches, and having so much fun doing it. Together, let's UX collaboration, break down silos, and build shared understanding that sets everyone up for success. Let's become the systems thinkers that our teams, and quite honestly, the world, are so desperately craving. Let's level up our practice and redefine what it means to be a UX designer. Let's jump into it. Okay, I am so excited about today's guest because she's genuinely like one of the heaviest hitters in content strategy. Angie King is a content strategy manager at Mayo Clinic, where she leads enterprise content strategy to improve patient experience. And before that, she spent over 5 years, which is like 20 years in tech years, at US Bank, growing from content designer all the way to vice president of UX design, which I really want to talk to you about that. Before going in-house, she ran her own consultancy, working with organizations like 3M. So the Sticky Notes, which is like one of a dream client of mine, Boston Scientific, Optum. And I did not know this about you until I was reading your bio. Angie, you got your start at Brain Traffic. Which, like, if you know content strategy, you know Brain Traffic is basically like, it feels like where the discipline was almost born or something. So I had no idea that you go back to the source. So Angie, you have seen this field from feels like every angle: agency, consultancy, enterprise, C-suite, adjacent. But this conversation gets extra special because you're also a certified OUX strategist. And you've told me that you believe OUX is the key, in all caps, the key for content designers to level up. So Angie, welcome to the UX Level Up. I'm just so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Okay, so you've been in content strategy since
A long time.
A long time, basically the beginning. So Brain Traffic, your own consultancy, US Bank, now Mayo Clinic. In all this time, what is the most common mistake you see content professionals, content designers making over and over again? Like, what happens when they play small, they get stuck? What do you see that boils your blood?
Not having the confidence to make recommendations because there's this fear of getting shot down immediately, because in the room, content folks have this perception of being seen as the last stage of a process, right? Like the fill in the blank people for the content, for the text. And
does that really still happen?
Oh yeah.
Like filling in lorem ipsum. That's a thing. Okay. Yeah, that's a problem.
So it's a huge problem within all of the enterprises that I've worked in, and all of the companies I've consulted with on my own too. Like the content folks in the room, like they have a lot of great questions, they have a lot of great recommendations, but they have this fear of speaking up because they don't feel like they have the authority to do so because people have made them feel like they don't have the authority to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you kind of perform at the level of the expectations that are set for you.
Mhm.
And what I've learned in my career, and this is like different for different persons, this is more difficult depending on your personality type, but I have learned I have to give the business often what they need, not what they're asking for. And just kind of like
Yep.
ask for permission, not for forgiveness, and say, no, we actually need to design a system before we go into screens. And that's
Mhm.
really tough to be asked to do this one thing and then show up on Monday and have something different and be like, actually, I didn't do what you told me to do. And
I
that can
know.
be really scary sometimes, depending on the personality that you are and who you're working
And
with.
I think personality is a huge part of it. So, like, and this is just anecdotal. I mean, my experience, and I think I've heard from other people that this is their experience too, that most people who go into content, number one, are women. Number two are, writers by trade, and therefore there's some sort of personality, like commonality, where you're kind of like quieter, a little bit like more reserved, like not as like in your
The
face.
librarian archetype,
Yeah,
maybe.
like the little writer in the corner. But like really smart people all go into this field, but then because of their personality and the viewpoints that other people have
Mhm.
about content as a practice, like they have a problem like being more proactive, and just more confident. And like my personality, I'm not like that. Just by nature, I've gotten more so over the years to be more confident and more outspoken because that's just in my nature. And I think that's been a huge part of kind of my success as a leader in the content space is helping coach people in the content field to be able to feel confident and stand on their own 2 feet and like be like, no, I am here for this conversation. Like, let me ask you all these questions.
Yeah.
I've got good questions.
Yeah. And that's so much about what OUX is about. It's about having that confidence. Like that is like the number one theme of the testimonials that I get for Object Oriented UX. Is like, this has finally given me confidence to like get out ahead a little bit.
And that's why I'm saying it's the key. Like every content designer at US Bank, when I worked there for 5 years, had this framework, the ORCA framework, in their tool set. They would be set. Nobody would be worried about losing their jobs, in the future, being spread across multiple teams, which is the hugest problem within the content industry. Like with content designers, that you have agile teams, you have scrum teams, but oh, hey, content, you can get spread out between like 500 teams. That's okay.
Yeah. And that's a problem too.
So, this framework at least would give people the
Yeah.
method at which to show up so that they feel more confident and they could actually make an impact and they wouldn't need to ask for a seat at the table because they're just there. They're the table.
Right. They're the table. So I just got out of this advanced retreat. So folks that have gone through the advanced certification, which Angie, you're on my list for cohort 12. Yeah, I've got my eyes on you.
And you asked me that on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay, I
Yeah,
guess that's me.
publicly. But yeah, so we had our first ever retreat in person. We had 8 people fly in from all over the country, all over the world. And that was a theme that came up of like, oh my gosh, all my colleagues are so freaked out about losing their job, about being taken by AI. And I'm just kind of like, I'm good. I'm going to figure it out because I've got these systems design skills and I know in my soul are so valuable and so difficult for AI to come in and start taking like the world building away from us, which is so much of what OUX is. It's like, what are the things here? How do they connect? What can people do to those things? What are those things made of? So that's just such a beautiful thing that you say. It's the confidence. Let me ask you this. So when we have content strategists, content designers doing the fill in the blank, being the last bit where it's like, here's the 3 boxes with some lorem ipsum in it, and there's a header, and then there's a little bloop underneath, and then there's a little tiny bloop underneath. Can you fill in the content with our values or whatever it is? That is a problem for the content designer, right? Because this is a I mean, it's a meaning making thing, right? So like
Mm.
literally my job feels a little less or maybe even a lot less sometimes meaningful. So easy to get burnout, right? You're scrambling, you're trying to fit round pegs and square holes. That doesn't feel good. But like which sucks. But what does this do for the business too? Like why is this a problem for like why should leadership even care? Why is this a problem for the bottom line for businesses when we have content designers coming in at the last minute and filling in the blank?
The problem is that content is an asset, it's data. In the world of AI, especially, everybody talks about AI, it's going to save the world. Businesses are laying off people because everybody's so more efficient. Guess what? AI can't even do that without content designers because the content designers need to make the AI smart enough in order to be efficient. You need humans in the loop in order to make the things with the AI work. Like this has come to light for me so much in recent weeks just because I'm working on this huge effort at Mayo Clinic right now, and it's the first time that I've actually been able to really use OOUX, on the job since I got my certification. I've been using like little bits and pieces here and there, but like I'm like doing it like
Yes.
full. And I started doing it with different AI tools. And then my friend Bill Dorman took a workshop from you
Yay.
and in Philly at the IA summit or whatever that's called. I forgot. But
It's an
anyway,
IA conference now.
I
It's IA conference. I still call it the AI summit. So
okay.
AI, what is it called? God, my
IA.
dyslexia is just a big problem in this day and age, being an information architect in the age of AI.
Oh,
It's
girl. Yeah.
hard. It's hard.
I'm sorry. But anyways, he was there, he took your
Yeah.
class and he texted me from your class. He's like, "Have you seen this?" And he sent me Zoe and I was like, "What? No, I haven't seen this. Hi, Zoe." And now I'm off to the races
Yeah. So
because I have
Zoe,
the tool
uh,
and the knowledge. Like
yeah.
without the knowledge, I couldn't be using the tool.
Hmm.
And without the tool, I couldn't be doing the work that I'm doing so quickly.
Yeah. So Zoe is our if anybody out there has been using Christine's a little dumb. She was our first attempt at an OUX or AI, but Zoe's a little bit of an upgrade. So that's OUX.com/Zoe. It's a custom GPT, and we're already looking to move that to Claude and create a bunch of skills.
Yeah.
So we'll have skills that you can take a screenshot of an object map and it will basically pump out a series of prompts for you, really a PRD, but in prompt chunks that are perfect for vibe coding. So that you do the object map and the CTA matrix, and then you pop it over to something like Claude Code or Replit. With that skill, it'll prevent shapeshifters, it'll prevent masked objects, it'll actually create a really amazing prototype or
Oh my
potentially the level of
gosh.
complexity real software for you.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Working on it.
Because that was the big problem that I was having, like in corporate America, right? Like there's a lot of meetings. There's so many meetings. I have all these ideas. We have this big project we're working on. I'm like, I need to do noun foraging. I need to I need to do all the things. I need to do the OOUX. I have
Yeah.
no time to do the OOUX.
Yeah.
Zoe helps me.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing where I'm straddling, like there is because that is one of the biggest pushbacks. Like this takes too much time. And mine is like, you don't have time not to do it. Like so many of these
No.
things that's like sharpening, like I don't have time to sharpen the knife. I'm just gonna start chopping down the tree. It's like, oh, just spend the first 45 minutes sharpening the knife and then you'll just slice right through the tree. But that's a hard sell sometimes because you have to like trust it. You have to like, and everybody on the team has to trust it that sharpening that knife is going to actually buy back your time. And you kind of have to do it once or twice to really start trusting that. So it's a hard sell to be like, this is going to make you faster in the long run, but you have to kind of do a lot of, and not a lot, like a couple weeks of upfront work, not months, couple weeks of upfront work to do that. The word that I've started using is shaping. I don't know if you've heard of
Mhm.
Ryan Singer from Basecamp. He released a book in 2019 and it's just kind of coming on my radar called Shape Up. And I'm still like, he's basically like Ryan Singer, if you're listening, let's talk. But yeah, this idea that like sometimes we like these 2 week sprints that we work on are too short to do the
Yeah.
kind of work that we need to do. But like we don't want to spend 6 months doing it either. So
Mhm.
his idea is to do it more in like these 6 week chunks. So anyway,
Hmm.
yes, the timing is we want to make OUX more efficient, right? So we can use AI to do that so that this systems thinking work goes a little bit faster, that it can fit in, and we don't have to say like, we need to spend 2 weeks all locked in a room together to run an ORCA sprint and do this work. We can do it faster. But then there's also like doing it for the AI. So there's like OUX for AI and AI for OUX. And what I was hearing about like the problem when we have content designers just filling in the blank, our content suffers and the structuring suffers because they're not part of that structuring. That becomes something that's difficult for AI to interpret. It's the whole garbage in, garbage out.
Well, exactly. That's where I was trying to lead to, and then I got distracted. But yes, thank you for making my point.
We're on the same page. We're on the same wavelength about this.
Yes.
I would imagine that a lot of people in content strategy, and this is in UX too, would say like, oh yeah, I think about structure. I think about systems. I build navigations. I think about the words in the navigation. But I have this feeling that there is a big difference between thinking you're doing system design and like actually doing it with rigor. The content designers that are filling in the blank, that are happily filling in the blank, do you think that they're like wanting to think in systems, or they see that as something that they need to do more?
I don't know if everybody realizes how much power they have in their hands already. Like they are thinking in systems, but maybe not realizing it. And I feel like I have been doing that all my life as, a content strategist, writer, content designer, content, whatever. Like I've had my hands in content in some way, shape, or form, and I've always been thinking about it in terms of like how to organize it, how it all works together, but I've just never had a framework for it. And now it's like I found ORCA and everything makes so much sense to me. And I feel like content designers, if they could really grok this, they would just have so much more confidence. Here's another thing that I've heard lately related to some content designers who, started off as like information architects or, were in like the .com, boom, from the start or whatever. And they're like, oh, UX ORCA, like that's all sounds similar to XYZ methodology I learned back in the day. And I'm like, great, good for you. Like, why didn't I learn about that? Like, where has been the focus on teaching content people a methodology that actually works instead of shoving us to the sidelines? Like, this is it. Like, finally, like, and I just want to shout it from the rooftops. And that's what I've been doing. I'm like, I'm going to like take over as chief evangelist here, Sophia, because like content designers need to hear about it.
Take over for the content design side, because, I did not grow up as a content designer. I grew up I just dropped in as a UX designer. But yeah, I mean, I think those other methodologies like domain-driven design or like entity relationship diagram. I mean, content modeling, like I've read the books. I've read Design and Connected Content. I've read Carrie Hain, Mark Atherton, Christina Halverson. Like I've read it and I'm like, yes. And we can be a little bit more structured and a little bit more rigorous and have a language around it.
I grew up, my career grew up at Brain Traffic, like the birth of content strategy. Like Christina wrote the freaking book on it. I usually have it within reach.
Yeah, it's somewhere over there.
Yeah, like I was there, for all the drafts and everything, like practicing it as she was writing it. Like all of it made sense to me at the time and it continues to make sense. But like OUX, like the system layer of it all is just like what I've been missing. And it's just totally blown things open.
So what I'm hearing is like you, as well as other content designers, are like thinking in systems. Like you have that like kind of like almost like instinctual idea, but like you don't need like a lot of, maybe not you, but a lot of content designers might not even know that they're kind of doing it, but then they're sort of pigeonholed in a way that prevents them from thinking in systems, even though they have it. And this potentially could be something to draw it out and be like, oh, now I have the confidence because I have a tool. I know what questions to ask and I can ask those showstopper questions. So, okay, so we haven't actually defined what ORCA is. So anybody that's like, I love Angie King, I'm going to drop into this podcast and I've never heard of OUX before. Do you think you could like how would you describe it, or how have you in the past tried to describe it to another content designer? What is ORCA and how does it apply to content design? I know this is a big loaded question, like a whole course.
This is the thing that I need improvement on. This is what I've been struggling at work lately, but I've been trying to explain it more like to experienced designers
Mm-hmm.
than content designers. And yesterday I was just like, I need work. I need to work on how I tell this
It's
story.
hard.
But, when I try to talk to people about it, I tell them that, the ORCA methodology is a way to create meaning out of your system by focusing on the things that people are coming to your system for. And those things can be thought of in terms of language. The OR stands for object, relationships, calls to action, and attributes. And the object part is the noun. And the noun is obviously tied to content and writing. Like we can, as content professionals, like just immediately, just like, oh, it's a noun? Okay, get it. Like, let's figure out what the nouns are. Like, for Mayo Clinic, I'm working on like people come because they have a condition. People come because they need a treatment. Like
Hmm.
those are, objects within
Medication
our
is probably
right.
an object,
Uh,
or is it a type of treatment, maybe?
yeah. So those are things that we've been parsing through, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to think about, how all of those things relate to each other, like which treatment treats which conditions and like mapping all of that together. So I'm getting a little bit more complicated than probably I would the first time I tell somebody, see, I need work.
We're
I need
practicing.
this to
I
work.
mean, you have to talk about this at Button in like a month or something, right? 2 months.
I
So
know,
we're just
I do.
practicing here. All my listeners
Um,
are your guinea pigs. That's totally fine. No, you're doing great. You're doing great. Keep going. Keep going.
yeah. So, and then well, there's rounds of which, first you're discovering these things and then you're defining these things and then, you just do a lot more refinings. But the gist of it is to understand what objects you have, the nouns, understand what relationships they have to each other, understand the actions like the CTAs that can be done to those objects. And that has layers to it. And then the attributes, the A is like what are you looking at when you see the thing? Like
Yeah.
what's the core content? What's the metadata? What are the things and that are the properties of
So a
this object?
treatment might have a title or a name for the treatment, but then it might have like alternate names for this treatment. It's also called this.
Yep,
It might have like a short summary. It might have a long description. It
yep,
might have side effects for the treatment.
yep. And those
Side
side
effect might
effects
be another object.
might be another object. And that's a road I went down, but I'm like, no, we don't have enough. Like
Hmm.
there's nothing what action are people going to take on a side effect? I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's
I don't
like,
need to see the side effect for tummy ache and like
right.
see all the treatments that cause a tummy
All the
ache.
treatments or all the conditions. Yeah, like
I mean,
it
that could be
probably,
cool. Like blindness. Like, what are all the treatments that might cause blindness? Because I'm very, but that's probably
yeah.
not that useful.
So, anyways, it's just figuring out, another way to look at it is like it's the building blocks, it's the Lego pieces, and like
Mm.
it's the Lego pieces of your system, and those Lego pieces are freaking nouns. They're objects. They're things we as content people understand, and then you like layer on all of this meaning by doing this ORCA framework, and it's just like becomes this magical entity that works. I don't know. It's magic.
Magic. Just say that. Just say that at Button. It's magic. So when is Button? Let's call out Button real quick.
Oh, yes. Button is September
September.
24th
Okay. And
to
it's
25th,
virtual.
I think.
It's
It's
virtual.
virtual.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes, and I'm going to tell a much more cohesive story. I just haven't obviously practiced yet. But my whole idea is just like we already understand the principles of ORCA as content people because it's based on words and not like language, like
Yeah.
the stuff that we work with every day. And like I was just like basically everything we've been talking about, like the problems that content designers are facing, and how we can level up with the ORCA framework. Like it's exactly the title of your podcast, like everything you've branded yourself perfectly because it really
It's a long
does do
road to
that.
get there.
But I'm just kind of trying to make the case for them like that I have found a
Well,
framework that I think is going to change the world.
so to pull this actually full circle, something I just thought of. So like when we were talking about what's the problem is like, okay, we got content designers who are filling in the blank and the organizations aren't realizing that content is the product, like especially somewhere like Mayo Clinic, right? Like content is the thing. And if we even think about from a product design perspective, I mean, even if it's a much more interactive thing, or it's user generated content, it's AI generated content, like it is the thing. Like, yes, people need to do things to that content, but like the world is content. Like I called it objects, but
Yeah.
it is your product. So this idea of like, let's just slap it on at the end versus like, it should be the juicy core of what we're doing is like really weird. Like how did we get here? How did we get to, because it's like, it just makes so much sense. Like this is and when it comes to like AI being able to do good work, like it's got the garbage in, garbage out. So if your content is garbage, like your organization is kind of garbage, your AI is going to be garbage. And I had this realization like a year ago, like, oh my gosh, like every system has an ORCA. Like every system has objects. Those objects have relationships. You do things to those objects, and then you want to break down your objects into attributes. So if you're not paying attention to your ORCA, it's basically you're not paying attention to your content,
Yep.
which means you're not really paying attention to the core value of your business.
Yeah. Thanks. Exactly.
Yeah. A equals B equals C. To go back to the content strategist who's like, okay, I already do information architecture. I know about content models. I read domain driven design back in 1995 or something, whenever it came out. And I've got domain driven design. See it right there. There it is. Like sounds like something that I learned back in the day in the .com boom. What would you say to them? Like, is OAUX, do you feel like it is, and for those that are new, OAUX, object-oriented UX, that's basically this overarching philosophy. People think in objects. ORCA is the methodology, objects, relationships, CTAs, and attributes. But would you say that this way of thinking, is it additive or is it like corrective or even like expansive? Like how did it feel when you were already doing this and then you like it started implementing
expansive
with,
like you
okay.
like that was the right word when you said it. I was like, yes, like that was, I felt like I had an anchor and like the world was now my oyster.
But it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I need to unlearn a bunch of things and
No.
like all these things that I was doing it wrong for the last couple
No.
it was like, oh, now it's a level up. It's not like I need to move in this direction. And I think that's what
Yeah,
a
no.
lot of people are like scared of it because they're like, it's going to show me that I don't want to, I don't think it's like a head in the sand type thing,
No.
but there is this fear that this is going to tell me something maybe that I don't want to hear. But it's like this idea, like, no, this is just adding on,
Right.
and it's
Yeah.
expanding what you already are kind of doing, and
You don't have to
powering it.
undo, the methodology, like you don't have to unlearn those. But for me, because I didn't go to design school. Like I went to journalism school, like I learned writing, I didn't learn design. So like this was my first framework that I really learned that it just, I don't know, it just made everything just sort of click into place for me. Maybe some folks, that have done more traditional training, in the space of design might feel a little bit differently, but for me it was just like the first and only thing that made sense.
I love that you said that you started using it in small ways first.
Hmm.
I think that's something that people come out of the certification or the masterclass and they're like, I need to do the whole thing. I need to do all 16 steps. And I think we did a lot of better with Masterclass 3.0 to make sure that that's clear that like, no, you don't have to do it all. It's not, doesn't mean that you're like not doing it right. Like you get
Right.
to pick and choose. So what were some of those first things that you were seeing? Like, or can you give an example of
Yeah.
maybe now, like what
Well, it
something clicked
wasn't
for you,
even,
or you were able to ask a question that nobody else was asking?
yeah, well, we were working on kind of like audience framework, funnel definition in general, like for marketing. And, a colleague was working on it and she had these really great ideas and stuff, but there were certain things within the framework that weren't lining up to me. And I realized I was like, oh, that's because like some of these things she has in here are nouns and some of them, some of them are objects, some of them are like relationships. Really what she needs to do is just focus on some parallelism here, like make sure we're just talking about the objects and not the relationships, within the same breath. So I didn't lay all of that on her, but I was just like, look look at these parts here and these parts here, like these are more like nouns and these are more like verbs, like they should be same. So, it was kind of just a very subtle thing, but it helped me kind of lead people in the right direction, and then we have this really nice audience framework. It's not because of that piece of feedback, but we did end up getting a really nice audience framework that is clicking with a lot of people. And I think, just being able to talk and give feedback to my colleagues who don't understand, the methodology, but to kind of frame it with that familiar kind of wording is just like, okay, well, what are the nouns? Like, are these the things or are these the actions of the things? Like, that was really useful.
So what I'm hearing, and I hear this from a lot of people, and this happens for me too, is it gives you a way to, like, often when we'll see somebody else's work or somebody will be explaining something, like, we know it's not quite right. We're like, but like, we don't have the words or the lens to say, oh, that's what's happening here. Like, that what's happening here is you're confounding nouns and verbs, or you're confounding what I'll often see as nouns and attributes. So like,
Yep.
this isn't really a thing. It's like just a piece of this other thing.
Yep.
And there is a way that we can fit these puzzle pieces together a little bit more, that now we can talk about it. We can kind of encapsulate, this is a thing with these attributes that kind of like ladder up to that thing. Like just the idea that side effects are going to be, they are just part of a treatment. And that a medication might be a treatment, or maybe even a medication is part of a treatment. Like, to be able to have these conversations and to be able to collaborate in a way where we're like, okay, well, what's the difference between a medication and a treatment? Like, have y'all had that conversation? Like, I feel like that's a juicy one right there. Like,
No,
is medication a type of treatment, or is it like, does the treatment, because like, I mean, chemo is a treatment, and like, you're going to get a lot of medication in chemo. Right?
Yes, no, chemo we would consider a treatment. That's a
Mhm.
good question. We have not delved into that very deeply. I'm working on a somewhat different project that, like, all of those sort of treatment and condition and et cetera, pieces of content, we have existing right now, but what I'm working on is a different way of like framing it up.
Mhm. I mean, I also think about like with Mayo Clinic, like, I mean, I can imagine that with when you're talking about like patient outcomes and really kind of like, you don't want your information to be wrong
Oh
on
no.
Mayo Clinic. Like, that's like, you're
Mm-mm.
gonna get sued. So, I mean, the clarity, like, that's another thing that we hear a lot, is like, oh, this is finally like things are, it's like turning the floodlight on when I had like the little shaky flashlight, that you have that clarity, which can give you confidence, of course. But is that also something that you've encountered at Mayo Clinic? It's like, we're able to create clarity for our customers more and be able to show that, like, I don't know, be able to be more confident, like what you're actually displaying to people.
I mean, that's the hope. I haven't, I'm just starting. I haven't seen anything through execution.
All right,
But
come back on the podcast in like what, 6 months, a year?
yeah, a year from now.
Yeah, amazing. Like, I can just, I mean, any industry, any kind of place that you're working where clarity is of the utmost importance, like, you don't want to be mixing things up. Like, you don't want to get that wrong. Like, just to go back to, like, I think an example that we can just play with here, because even though you haven't really like worked through it, but that
Hmm.
from that everybody would understand, is this like treatment versus medication.
Hmm.
Um just because, like, you don't want to start confounding that. You want to make sure that the mapping is really clear. They're like, okay, there's chemo as a treatment. Here's the medications that you might get. Are there alternate medications? So is there a medication to medication relationship where it's like,
Hmm.
this is the primary medication, but like, twirl it down and here's some other medications, and they have different side effects, so that I can go into my oncologist and be like, I want to make sure to get this version of it, not this version, because this side effect is something that I cannot deal with, but this side effect is something that I can. Like,
Hmm.
things like that that can empower. Because I mean, I guess like Mayo Clinic, like, well, I'll ask you, but I'm guessing like one of the main goals is to empower patients. So to take like their healthcare into their
Yeah.
own hands a little bit and have more
Well,
informed conversations with their
have more informed
providers.
conversations and like, Mayo Clinic treats a lot of serious and complex conditions, right? That's our bread and
Mm-hmm.
butter. And I think that what people understand that, people understand our reputation, but what they don't understand is if they are serious or complex. Like, is
Mm-hmm.
their condition like is what they have, something that Mayo Clinic could deal with. And then some people don't even consider like, oh, Mayo Clinic, like that's too much for me. Like they don't
Mm,
even consider it. So the goal really is to like help empower them, but also just I mean, the goal is to save lives. So it's like we want we
mm-hmm.
want we want to get in front of the people who need us, right? And like help them understand when they need us. And that
Mm-hmm.
help them feel confident to make the choice to
Yeah.
come to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Do you work on because when I think about Mayo Clinic, I think about it almost as like it's like a resource for information, right?
This is
I'm
an
g-
interesting thing that you're saying, Miss
I
Sophia.
am going to be totally honest with you. I did not realize that Mayo Clinic was actually a hospital.
Oh, yes. See, though, this is
I
interesting. This is
thought that it was a little bit of
interesting.
perception, user research. Yeah, because I like it said, I mean, I guess your SEO is just great. Like if you search for any kind of condition, it's like Mayo Clinic is like, it's like it feels like the Wikipedia almost of health conditions.
Mhm. But guess what? We
What's that?
actually have lots of amazing doctors that can treat those health conditions
Okay.
at 3
Okay.
different campuses across the United States, and we serve internationally.
So that goes to the C of ORCA.
Yeah.
like, like if you're on a condition page, is there a big thing like book an appointment, book a discovery call or something like that? Um,
Sophia, these are the problems I'm trying to solve.
okay, okay. Amazing. Connecting actions to the content. Is that a common thing? Am I just completely left field or is it a common thing that people don't even realize that it's a hospital?
I I have a hard
It's
time
me.
answering that question because I am from Minnesota and Mayo Clinic like
Right.
was born in Minnesota. It's a
Okay.
100+ year history, like so like the reputation of Mayo Clinic within Minnesota is like beyond anything that I know what I don't know what other people's perceptions in the rest of the country are.
Yeah,
But
I'm
this
from
was
Georgia and I'm just down here Googling the weird rash that I have.
no, but
And
this is
I
like
don't have a weird rash. I
super
don't have a weird rash. But yeah, it's just it's just it's just it's a search result. I really thought it was the Wikipedia. So that is
That is
really
so
interesting.
good to know. I'm gonna bring this back to my team. You're just like gave me so much information.
But I might be an outlier. Right? I might be an outlier that I'm like, I live under a rock in many ways
You
where
might
I
be, you may
know
not
things
be.
and then some things I'm like, I just missed that. I missed the memo on that because I'm often so laser focused in my own little world.
No, but I
So
mean
validate that.
that's a huge fear we have. Like how many people out there are like Sophia?
Just being like,
Let's see what Mayo Clinic has to say. All they have is
yeah,
information.
it's just information. So connecting your nouns and your verbs, this is an important thing. Like, because I'm actually looking right now. Wait, I am trying to look right now. So if I look up, let's do IBS, just the first thing that jumped into my head, and irritable bowel syndrome. Okay. So symptoms and causes. Oh, there is a request an appointment button. It's just you just don't. It doesn't look like a button. It could be a little bit. You could pop. It could pop a little bit more. I mean, these like the tabs are much more popping out, but there is a request an appointment button.
Hmm.
Okay. And just for those listening, I've got a page. It says irritable bowel syndrome. I got a request an appointment link below. It's got a little calendar icon, which is nice. And then we have these big kind of like tabs. But doctors and departments is good. And then we have departments that treat this condition. So we have a good relationship there. And then we actually have doctors that treat it. Okay, we have beautiful doctor objects. Look at them. So we have like doctor cards under there and symptoms and causes. Looks like a bunch of this is all going to be core content. We've got a video, core content, core content. So this is all core content, right? And then we've
Hmm.
got more information. So we also probably have like an article object too. Okay. Now I know more about Mayo Clinic. Amazing. So what are some other things you say like that's the thing that you're working on? Like what are some other I mean, I don't want you to throw Mayo Clinic under the bus by any means, but like
No,
what can you share? Like what are some of the other problems that you're seeing that you're like hoping OUX can help with?
making the appointment process more clear because it's actually on the back end dependent, on your condition and the department and kind of the eligibility requirements of that department. Like there's a lot of complexity involved in the appointment process. And so it shows up in different ways with user pain points. So that's a thing, I would love to try to solve both in the actual content that we present on the website about the process and the process itself. I think the process itself is out of scope for me, but eventually maybe we can get there. And I think, OUX could really, really help with that.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about there's this whole other side, which often we would think like that's out of scope for a content designer of like, well, once they've hit that CTA and now they're more in
Mm.
interaction design. But once they book an appointment, then they have an appointment object.
Mm-hmm.
And how does that appointment object, does it link back to internal irritable bowel syndrome? Does it give you like, okay, before your appointment, here's the things that you need to do before the appointment, like don't eat for 8 hours or whatever that
Yep.
is. So there's actual information that there's the kind of like the junction object, if you will, between the
Uh-huh.
condition and
Oh.
the appointment and the patient, which is what information needs to show to prepare them for the appointment.
And then there's
That's
like
fun.
yeah, like the whole authenticated side of being a patient is a whole
Mm.
nother world that I'm not involved in, but that gets really even more juicy.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you're not involved because I think that that's how a lot of companies split things. There's probably, are there different teams? There's like the team that's the before authentication
Well,
for the
I'm in
Wikipedia.
marketing,
Yeah.
so that's before, like that's
Yeah.
public. And then we have a digital team, that works on the authenticate experience. We partner on where things kind of
Good.
mix
Good.
together, but
Yeah.
yeah, like
So,
most things, there's pain points around that, and it shows up on the website and it shows up internally.
and for the user experience, because like for me, like I don't care. I'm just like, this is Mayo, it's all Mayo Clinic. I'm not thinking like I'm in the marketing department's domain. And then I crossed over into
Yeah,
the digital team's domain. I'm like, this is still Mayo
no.
Clinic. Why is that thing that I was looking at not integrated over here? Have you thought at all, or have you, let me just put a little seed, but maybe you've already been thinking about this about objects that carry over.
Mm-hmm.
So, and how like that creates an amazing point of collaboration to say, oh, this is an object, like you own the appointment object, but we own the condition object. And there's a relationship between the appointment and the condition. This is where we need to collaborate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we haven't gotten to that point, but yeah, that would be good.
This is my dream, like an OUX organized team where it's like, here's the objects that we're responsible for. And then you could literally make a
Have
nested
like a
object matrix
yeah.
that shows you like if I'm responsible for these objects and you're responsible for these objects, let's build a nested object matrix. And where our objects talk to each other is where we need to talk to each other.
Right.
So we can even map
'Cause
out
yeah,
our
you can do
collaboration.
all that stuff, in like an agile methodology. You have a bunch of teams working on different things, but you have to connect. Yeah.
Okay, I've just got a few more questions for you. Okay,
Okay.
so I really want to hear a little bit more. This is a loaded one about your career trajectory because you, especially like at US Bank, like you went from individual contributor to VP of UX. Like, how? How did that happen? Say more.
Well, I started as an individual contributor, but I was already a leader, at that time of my career, but I took a job. Let me back up. So I have a son, Charlie, he's 13. When he was
Charlie.
born, I was working at a small company in the Twin Cities called Bachman's. It's a floral gift and garden. It was really cute, and I was doing all the content for them. But then when my son was born, I decided I wanted to go freelance so that I had more time. I could spend more time at home with him when he was young. And I did my freelance career. That's where I worked with 3M and Boston Scientific and all that stuff. And it was great. I did like 20 billable hours a week so that I could, have a day or two at home with Charlie. And then when he got into school age, I was like, you know what? All of this running my own business stuff, I hate.
Mhm.
I love being my own boss, but I hate running my own business. And I
Mm.
think I would like to get back into, getting a steady paycheck and having a 401k and not having to like shake up my next client work
Mm.
now that, my son was going to school. But I was nervous about it because I did really like being my own boss. And so I started exploring some options. And one of the options I explored was a placement agency, like So US Bank was hiring a bunch of contractors because they were redoing their entire digital app and authenticated experience, and they were just hiring up a storm with, all these contractor teams. So I got connected to an agency who connected me to US Bank, and I was like, I don't think I want to work for a bank. Like that sounds boring. But because I was only contracting and I'm like, okay, maybe this is a good fit. I've never done content design either. Like I'd only done content strategy. And I was like, what does UX content mean? I'm not even sure how that's different, but I think I could do it. And it just felt really like a comfortable thing to do because I wasn't making a huge commitment because I was just a contractor. And then I got in as just a contractor, and I can't be just a contractor. So I started to do what I do, which is be the big mouth in the room and ask all the questions. And then my boss was like, actually, I think we need to hire you. And actually, I think you need to be a leader. And I was like, oh, okay.
Okay. Asking all those questions, being the big mouth in the room.
Yep. So I started leading a small team, as the content designer on the team and as the UX lead. Because I didn't know it, but I had UX chops. And, I just did through osmosis. I didn't know it, but I did. I felt like kind of an art director slash UX leader. Like this was the problem I had as a UX leader. I didn't have a framework to stand on that I understood in my bones. I didn't have OOUX or ORCA yet, but I was still managing to lead somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did a good job of it. I led an entire platform team, of like 60 people in my department. Like I was doing the work, but I still felt like a little bit of an imposter because have I just feel like I didn't have the right training. I was like, I feel like I'm making the right decisions, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
Don't know
And you
why.
probably were making a lot of the right decisions and asking
Yeah.
the right questions, but having the framework, having the backup basically and that confidence,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing is like being the loudest mouth in the room, which a lot of people are saying like that's never going to be me, right? They're listening, they're like, I am more of that librarian archetype, or I just don't feel like I have the confidence to ask those tough questions, or maybe I ask a lot of questions but I get shot down all the time because often what I hear is, we have people that ask a lot of questions, but they go down rabbit holes. And so some
Hmm.
of their questions might be really good, but it gets lost in the noise because they're just asking all of the questions and some of them aren't relevant. So
Right.
having the thing is like with the ORCA process, if you were already naturally a question asker, amazing. Like this is just going to plug in and power you up, right? And you're going to be like even better at it. If you are reticent to ask questions because you've been burned by asking questions, or like you feel a little bit shy or imposter syndrome to be able to ask the questions, this will give you the confidence to do it. And it's
Hmm.
asking those questions, right? That like
Hmm.
what I heard is that was a big, like being the loudest mouth in the room, you are positioning yourself as a leader.
Hmm.
And you have to be doing that well. Like you don't want to be the loudest mouth in the room because you're asking a bunch of irrelevant questions and everybody's like, that doesn't actually matter, right? Because you're
Yeah,
just a
thankfully
curious
I was
person.
asking good questions.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
good questions. And that's like such an important thing. I think so many people think being a leader is about having all the answers,
Oh
having the
God,
best
no.
solution. Oh God, no. There no.
I feel like I hardly have any of the answers. But yeah, and I never wanted to be a leader. But at US Bank, my boss, hi Todd Steineman, he was like,
God.
I really think you should consider this because you're already kind of doing it. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know. I was really freaked out about being a leader because I didn't want to be a manager. I didn't want to be a boss. And so I was like, well, I don't have to be like negative four-letter word boss. I can just be a leader.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. This is the servant leadership, right? Because that's what
Yeah.
asking questions is about. It's not about like this is the answer and this is the direction we're going. It's asking those questions so that you're bringing the expertise out of everybody, and collectively you can co-create that solution together,
Hmm.
which is like the beauty of servant leadership and what
Yeah.
leadership really should always be. Like at the fact that we have to say servant leadership because we have to define it from like
Right.
a lot of the leadership that we're seeing today, which is not servant leadership. It is very self-serving leadership. So
Yeah.
we
Well, and the
have
fact
to.
that you can lead from any position is something that I've, had to learn as well. Like And that I think is a really powerful lesson for content strategists and content designers. Like, even though, you might be just the content person in the room, like you can still lead.
Yes. Even a contractor content person, you can still lead. And that is,
Yeah.
and like you lead by helping other people shine in a way, helping other people make better decisions, not by calling out like, why doesn't anybody know the answer to this in the room? And I just asked a hard question that everybody like feels threatened by. No, you ask the question, you could do it in a way where you are bringing expertise out.
Yeah.
You're helping design the roadmap. So you're asking prioritization questions as well, that somebody is not, they don't have the framework. They're not thinking through, wait a second, this is something that we need to ask. How important is the symptom object? Like, is it okay that it's just bullet points right now? Like, even a question like that, or is like symptoms is the main thing that people are searching for? So from a business and SEO perspective, we should probably have a symptom detail page. It should probably be
Yeah.
its own object, because people are going to back into the condition from the symptom.
Yeah. Yeah. Those would be the types of discussions I would have had.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, at US Bank, it's like I was having discussions, but I didn't have the confidence because I didn't have the framework to fall back on to like explain like the decisions I was making.
Yeah.
I could kind of back into them, but I really feel like if I would have had this, if I would have had OOUX and ORCA in my pocket when I was at US Bank for those 5 years, it would have been a much different experience for me.
How would have it been different?
I wouldn't have burnt out.
Well, we can leave it at that.
Yep.
So, speaking of being burnt out, let's talk about the certification real quick. So, nice transition. Okay, so we've got cohort 12 is coming up. We kick off August 31st. So cohort 12 it's now going to be a 12-week program, because it was 10 weeks for the longest time. Cohort 11, we extended it to 11 weeks. We're going to make this a full 12-week program, which it deserves. So that kicks off on August 31st. We'll be opening doors about a couple weeks before that. So we'll have the link below to get on the wait list, OUX.com/waitlist, I think. It'll be, I think it's OUX.com/waitlist. Or do OUX.com/certification. That'll get you there for sure. And you can learn more about it. But tell me about your experience with the certification, and any designer who's like, this sounds awesome. I want that confidence. I want to learn this. Maybe I'll just binge the podcast and read a bunch of articles. Like, what did the certification give you, and what should people kind of prepare for if they're like, I don't know, maybe this is a good idea?
Yeah. So I started, when did you do your UX level up free workshop thing that led
First
into
time.
foundations? And
That was beginning of 2025. Yeah.
Okay. So it was just before that I even learned about OUX from a colleague at kind of this position I had in between US Bank and Mayo Clinic, where he like introduced me to OUX and ORCA, and we tried to do a workshop. He tried to do a workshop with the team that we were working with, and it was kind of a failed workshop because he hadn't gone through certification, but he'd learned, enough about it. And it was my first time hearing about it, and I got really interested. And then I started following you, and then I took that UX level up and I learned a little bit. And then I took the UX foundations and I learned a little bit more. And then I was like, I can see how powerful this is, but I want to understand it in my bones. Like it's such a different way of thinking. And once you get it, but it takes a while to wrap your brain around it. And I knew that instinctually. So I was like, I feel like I need to take the certification course in order to get this. And I feel like once I get this, I'm going to have a superpower. So I signed up. I was just, your sales pitch just like got me hook, line, and sinker through that whole thing. And I signed up for the certification course. I wasn't mad at you. I was like, Sophia knows how to sell this. Like, she's got me. So,
I've been through it. I know the pain. I've been through it.
So, I did it, and like, I don't know how far in advance I signed up for the certification course, but it was several months in advance. And then by the time that the certification course came up, I was starting a new job at Mayo Clinic. I had moved my family pretty recently across the country from Minnesota to Florida. My son was, still transitioning, like starting school for the second, time. Like everything was super stressful in my life, other
Yeah.
personal things. new job at Mayo Clinic, and the certifications course started on the same exact day.
It's your new job?
Yes.
Oh my God.
It was the worst probably time in my life to do this. And like a couple weeks before the certification course, I considered emailing you saying, hey, is there any way that maybe I can delay this? Because this is really, I'm really stressed out and I don't know if I can handle it. Because like all of your prep emails were like, you guys, you got to carve out your time. This is really intense. Like, make sure you're carving out your time. I'm like, oh my God, she's making me so scared.
But it was real, right? Like,
it was real. I just said to myself, like, I just got to bite the bullet. I've already paid for it. Like, I know in my bones that I want to learn this and it's never going to be a good time. Like, just do it. So I did it. And it was hard. It was stressful. You even, you expanded the course from 10 weeks to 11, during that time frame. And now it's 12 because that's what it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, I was in the middle of it and it was a lot, but I got through it. And you know what? I loved every minute of it. It was stressful, but I loved every minute of it. And now that I have those skills, like I will never regret going through that time. Like those 11 weeks were really intense, but I have such a powerful skill set now that is still like seeping into my bones. Like it takes a really long time, I feel like, to like really get it. And probably if I do like the mentoring, like you're suggesting for this next cohort, like it'll start to sink in more. Like I just feel it, so
yeah.
That's my message to other people is like, if you're interested in this at all, like if you feel like you're like drawn to it, like I was like, just do it, just follow that instinct because it is just making so much sense to me.
Yeah. And even though it was a tough time, and even though you were like so primed for it, like you said, like you were already kind of thinking this way, you were already like, it kind of was, and I saw you in the course, like it was clicking for you. I will say that you also had a very difficult design challenge that we shout out to Elena Haskins, our design challenge lead on that one. That was a very difficult design challenge. And we were refilming the course. So we actually expanded the course. And that's why we were like, oh my gosh, when we started refilming the course for 3.0, it hadn't been filmed in 2 years. It needed to be refreshed. We refilmed the entire course with the full team and it got longer. Like we were wanting to make it shorter, but we did make it more concise, but then we added stuff that we were like, oh, like this needs to be in because we had all the frequently asked questions. We knew all the things that you were going to be getting stuck on. Like I spent 4 minutes on relationships by proxy in the 2.0, and I did an entire 30-minute lesson. It like just as one example. So we expanded the course and hopefully it's not going to be like, well, I shouldn't say hopefully, it's not going to be as stressful this time because it's going to be 12 weeks. It'll be a little bit more luxurious and we'll make sure to dial in those design challenges so they're not like too mind numbing or not mind numbing, mind melting. It's a better word.
No, I think 12 weeks sounds perfect. I think it'll be great.
Wonderful. Angie, thank you so much for being here. We'll put a link to your button talk so people can sign up for that, and make sure to just send me any other links that we want to get so we can put those in the show notes for people so they can find you. And I hope to see you as a mentor in the fall.
Thank you. Yes, we'll talk more about that offline.
We'll talk more about that. Maybe 2027 is fine too. If the timing's not right. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you for all of your kind words and your advice to everybody. And for all those out listening, happy OUXing. Cheers. Thank you so much for listening to the UX Level Up podcast. If you want to connect with me, Sophia, please follow me on Instagram at SophiaVUX, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Sophia Prater. I'm pretty easy to find there. Our music was brought to you by Ruby Vell, courtesy of Sugaroo Records. Thanks again for listening.